Don't believe him. It's much more complicated than that. It's much more complicated. I think that it was one American Secretary of State who said, I would like to talk with the European Union, but I don't know which phone number to call. And it's still not clear exactly which phone number you have to call when you want to talk with the European Union. Because the European Union is a complex, it's a club of member states. A club, more than a club. It's a gathering of member states which have decided to put together some of their sovereignty. Monetary one is the most clear one, with the central bank and others. And to keep for them other part of their sovereignty, in particular foreign policy and defense policy, which are clearly state-owned competences. But at the same time, they decided to try to build a common foreign policy and a common security policy. But as you understand, common doesn't mean unique. I share something with you, but I don't share other things, which is the communality. Well, this is a difficult thing to answer. In some cases, it's a clear position, and in others, there are as many positions as member states. Look at the last vote at the United Nations General Assembly about the Arab countries' initiative with respect to the truce or the ceasefire or whatever you want to call it in Gaza. 4 voted against, 8 voted in favour, and 14 abstained. A clear example that there is not a common position. And when there is not a common position, each one keeps its own position, and I, as a spokesperson for the common position, has not a lot to say, because there is not such a common position. But the important thing is not to announce the common policy or the common position, but to try to build it, to try to put people together, to see why there are different visions and how we can overcome these visions in order to have a common position. Sometimes it's not possible. The differences are very big. Others, there is a natural understanding and a common position. Well, the same thing happened with the monetary policy. Today, everybody knows that the members of the Eurozone share a common currency, a common and unique, because they don't have other. But for many years, we had a common currency, which was called ECU, but was not unique. And we had at the same time our national currency. In Spain we had the peseta, in France they have the franc, and we share a common currency which was not unique, but how do you manage to have each one its own currency and at the same time to share a common one? Well, with a complex systems of equivalences. Maybe some of you remember the snake in the tunnel, meaning that there were going to be some oscillations with respect to the central value of the common currency, but these oscillations should not overpass a certain limit. It was a tunnel and a snake, showing that each currency has to keep a certain value with respect to the common, the euro. Well, more or less we are trying to do the same thing, with the difference that there is the tunnel is very wide, and the positions diverge, in some cases 100%, because someone says yes and others says no. This is the way we work, and then you have the complex institutional setting. We have a commission, which is executive power, for the competences that has been communalized, not for the others. And we have a council that is the real master of the European Union, because it's the member states who gather together in order to fix the guidelines that then we try to implement them. And in this complex environment, in a complex world, it's becoming more and more difficult to fix a position which can be implementable, not just in the matter of principles, but in action. This introduction is to give an answer to the fact that who is speaking on behalf of the European Union. Well, it depends on what. It depends on what. And even I can say it depends when. And it depends also on the permanent fight on the political sense of the word, between this complex institutional setting, which are the competences of the member states and which are the competences of the Commission. It's defined in the treaties, but as any legal definition, there are overlaps, and there is the critical political pressure for one side on the other to have the lead. And this is especially true when we talk about the more political things, the more this institutional controversy sometimes appears. And then there is the Parliament. Don't forget about the Parliament, who is the co-legislator for many things, not for all, but for many, and who is the co-budgetary authority. The budget has to be approved by the Parliament and by the Council, both. Both have to agree. And what happens when they disagree? Well, then there is discussions, the Commission intervenes, but the decision is not to the Commission, the decision is to the Council and the Parliament, the two co-legislators. And sometimes the Parliament has a view and the Council has another view. Member states diverge, differ, and I receive criticism from both sides, from the side of the Parliament and from the side of member states. So this is a difficult job, but it is more and more difficult because the world is more and more complicated. When I came here 4 years ago, things were much easier. But since then, we had a pandemic and we had two wars. The war of Russia against Ukraine and the current war or the conflict between Palestine and Israel, but many others. And the human rights are being more and more violated. And I cannot say that the world is driving to a future based on peace and cooperation. By the contrary, I see more and more human rights abuses and less cooperation. At the institutions, for example, you see the Security Council, there are more and more vetoes and less agreements. And then it has to go to the United Nations General Assembly, where there is not the veto but the majority, but without executive capacity. Although the executive capacity of the decision of the Security Council is also quite theoretical, because there are a lot of resolutions which are being voted, agreed, but not implemented. And the last one is the request for a ceasefire in Gaza, which has been voted at the Security Council, but not implemented.